This video is a re-upload. It was originally published on November 22nd, 2017. It is part 3 of my 4-part series on why the Matrix trilogy is underrated. The reason why I'm re-uploading this is because Warner Brothers suddenly issued a stricter copyright on the footage of the films that I used, and therefore blocked my video entirely. My guess is that they are preparing for The Matrix 4. I have edited the video to remove the copyrighted footage. I figured I should do this as soon as possible in preparation for The Matrix 4. Make sure to watch parts 1, 2, and 4, which are linked in the description below. Enjoy. Also, shout out to this dude who commented on the original video. Your comments are not lost, my friend. Hey, welcome to my workshop. I can't see it in this frame, but don't worry. That's why I took a different shot. There you have it. So, you may be wondering why the hell I'm here. Don't worry, you didn't click on the wrong video. This is still all about The Matrix, and in this video I'm going to talk about all the bad stuff. The Matrix as a whole trilogy. So I'm here for the power of metaphor. I'm going to use this plank here, this wooden plank, to make a point about something. And that something is the number one thing that annoys the shit out of me in the entire Matrix trilogy. The number one thing above everything else. So, I'm gonna cut this in two. Alright? And we'll get to my point momentarily. There we go. Any day now. Alright. Here we go. Not done just yet. Need some finishing touches on these. Alright, let's see here. Let's, Okay. Let's see. Oh, that's good, that's good. There we go. That's that guy, and that's her. Okay, yeah, got it. Perfect. All right. Now, every great cinematic love story has one thing in common: chemistry. Now, I don't mean just the actors. I mean the characters themselves. Neo and Trinity's relationship can be best described as this. Why does Trinity love Neo? You don't actually know why, do you? The Oracle simply told Trinity that she would fall in love with the One, which is also a very ambiguous statement, because it's like, will she fall in love with the One for her, or the One meaning the One to save humanity, and the One happens to be Neo? Okay, that's it. There's no witty banter between Neo and Trinity. You have no idea what they like or dislike about each other. We don't experience anything about their relationship. We're just told that they're meant to be together, and that's it. That's the love story. You have to make us feel that they're in love, not just tell us that they're in love. And this problem started out, like I said, in the first Matrix movie right away. That's what makes the sex scene in Matrix Reloaded kind of awkward and out of place. Like, don't get me wrong, it's nice to look at, it's artistic, yeah, but we don't really have a context for their relationship. We don't feel any passion. Like, the only thing that we should feel bad about is that, oh, Neo had a dream that Trinity was going to die. Okay. It's just like, you're gonna die. Oh no, I don't want that. It's a point that I don't think many people bring up, because when you do bring up something like that, the answer that everyone has is, oh, Keanu Reeves is a bad actor. But it's not really that, it's just how it's written. There's no scenes of wittiness or playfulness or any kind of passion between Neo and Trinity. And it's so stale.
Conveyance is the action of making an idea or concept known or implied to an audience. The Matrix sequels failed in regards to conveying a lot of interesting ideas. There could have been better ways to convey key plot points and plot changes, and overall expand upon the universe they created. The Merovingian's henchmen should have displayed more powerful abilities to match Neo. They are actually exiled programs, but there are only a few quips of dialogue that explain the concept of exiled programs, and how most of them are the Merovingian's henchmen. The Oracle mentions the mere existence of exiled programs. These programs break the system to do things they're not supposed to be doing, and they are explained as the supernatural, like werewolves, vampires, aliens, angels, and other monsters. That's a cool concept. That's a cool way to explain what the supernatural is. It's just like how the original Matrix showed how deja vu works with the Black Cat. Unlike the original Matrix, we were told instead of shown. We were only shown the twins, but there is no actual connection that these are the ghosts that the Oracle was talking about. Most of the Merovingian's henchmen are actually werewolves and vampires, but the only quip we get is when Persephone kills them in one scene. She says that the Merovingian's henchmen are notoriously difficult to terminate. She says, "How many people keep silver bullets in their gun?" and then shoots the Merovingian's henchmen. There's a fun little reference though in the background. The henchmen were watching a movie that featured vampires. That's the kind of subtlety that the Wachowskis seem to want to go with, and that's cool. But there's another problem when we don't actually see this central aspect of the fictional universe played out on screen. The only reason I know that a majority of the Merovingian's henchmen are supernatural is through the video game Enter the Matrix. But I shouldn't have to play the video game to understand a world that you want to convey in the movie. You know what I mean? Some Matrix fan I know aren't even aware that there are Matrix video games. You see, I think the Merovingian's henchmen should have been a bit tougher and displayed more powers because at this point Neo is already Jesus. There's no threat to him in the castle fight, and they try to remedy this briefly by showing that he bleeds, but he still kills them all without breaking a sweat. So instead, in this fight scene, what we get are just some dudes. And if the thought of Neo fighting werewolves and vampires just sounds silly, well, what about this? I'm pretty sure the twins aren't the only two ghost programs in the entire Matrix. I'm pretty sure there are more. So what if the Merovingian's henchmen were all ghosts? And you know, the twins go after Morpheus and Trinity and the Keymaker, and the rest are fighting Neo, and Neo is like overwhelmed, and it's like, shit, I need to stop fighting. I can't deal with this shit right now, and he just escapes. And you can still have the scene where he stops the bullets. I'm not saying to take that away. You can still incorporate that. You can still have the cool moments. I just feel like they could have enhanced this fight scene in ways that we probably didn't think about. Neo is the one, yes, but what if he's still figuring out his powers? Like, maybe it's not immediately apparent to him how he can defeat the ghosts, and because there's the pressure of his friends getting killed, he just has to run away right now. That went for a lot longer than I wanted to, but moving on.
Now, the second and biggest failure of conveying an idea is one that everyone talks about, and it's the part at the end of The Matrix Reloaded. Neo is suddenly able to shut down the machines. Okay, so this is a hot point of discussion and argument and debate, and like honestly it was answered, and you know, people were confused because even the Wachowskis and Keanu Reeves in interviews said that like, oh yeah, it's done, everything was explained, but everyone was like, no, not everything was explained. Like, what the hell happened there? How was Neo able to shut down the machines in the real world? Does that mean the real world isn't the real world after all? Like, is Neo so like what, all these fan theories? Here's the thing: when there are so many fan theories surrounding your story, that probably means you didn't convey your idea very well. Well, let me correct that. If you claim that everything is answered and people still make so many fan theories around it, probably means that it wasn't clear on what exactly happened. Of course, there are some directors and writers who want things to be mysterious and ambiguous, and you know, that's on purpose, and that brings up a discussion. But you know, this is something that they intended to clearly answer, and they just didn't do it very well. So the only answer we ever get is in the third film,
Neo asks the Oracle how it's possible that he can shut down machines with his mind in the real world. The Oracle says, the power of the One extends beyond this world. It reaches here all the way back to where it came from. Neo says, where? The Oracle says, the source. That's what you felt when you touched those sentinels, but you weren't ready for it.
So what does that mean? Well, it means exactly what it means. See, after Neo exposed himself to the architect, which is the source, and went back to the real world, Neo was basically able to have the same administrative privileges, so to say. So think of it like this. You know how Smith was an AI program, obviously, but then he found a way to jump into the consciousness of a human. Now, Neo is the opposite way. He's a human who's able to hijack the consciousness of an AI. That's basically what happened. It goes both ways. The whole thing is about electrical impulses. Now Neo's electrical impulses can detect the machine's electrical signals. And so that's it. But they didn't really go into that. And I mean, you know, it's not like they're going to go into a whole discussion about neurobiology and how neuron and, you know, all theoretical stuff about AI and singularities and stuff like that. But at the same time, it was just touched upon just ever so slightly in like just one quip of dialogue. Instead of blink, you miss it. You know, it's like zone out and you miss it and you're like, what? And you kind of have to think about it a while, and yeah, obviously they could have done it better. The funny thing is that the architect actually alludes to this.
You have many questions, and although the process has altered your consciousness, you remain irrevocably, oh my god, it's like I don't speak English, what the fuck's wrong with me? Irrevocably human. Ergo, some of my answers you will understand, and some of them you will not.
Consciousness was altered, but he's still human. He's just different now because he's able to communicate with the machines. So the agents, right? If they're part of the entire system, wouldn't they know things rather instantaneously? For example, in the very first scene of the first movie, they're looking for Trinity and they send some policemen to go find her. But then later on in the film, we learn that the agents can jump into other people connected to the Matrix.
Why didn't they just possess the first policeman who caught sight of her in that room? Why not all of them? The fight could have been over before it even started. But there's another thing that is never actually explained or even implied. What happens to an innocent person in the Matrix after an agent takes over their consciousness? For the most part, the agents die anyway, and therefore the people that they possess die. But what about the agents who don't die? What happens to them? Do they allow the innocent person to revert back to their own consciousness? Now, don't get me wrong, the opening scene to The Matrix is probably one of the most memorable opening scenes in movie history. It's very well choreographed and artistic, but the irony is that there's not much logic to it given the rules of the universe that the Wachowskis created. They already contradicted the rules of their own fictional universe that they just created.
I mean, my best guess is that they don't want to take over someone's body because maybe they do die, and that's like the last thing they kind of want to do. How strong is Neo? Okay, so at the end of The Matrix Reloaded, we see him catching Trinity, and everyone complains. They're like, oh, that would have killed her in the fall. But like, we can excuse that because we have to remember this happened in The Matrix, and Neo's able to bend like what we thought were natural laws of the universe. So that's excusable. But how come he never did that jumping thing into Mr. Smith's body at the end of the first movie?
Neo could have used that move to finish every fight with every agent. Why didn't he do that? Is it like his special move that needs to be charged? His final smash? But Neo never uses it ever again. How come he can do shit like that, but then have trouble catching a closing door in Matrix Reloaded? I think part of the problem lies in how the first Matrix feels like it's a standalone film. It wraps up nicely. It's written as if there can be no sequels after it because that's it. Neo's Jesus now. He can do anything and save the world. The end. This is typical of potential trilogies because new filmmakers are never sure if the first movie is going to be a hit. The first movie feels whole because if it doesn't do well, there's no cliffhanger. That's how the first Star Wars ended, and the first Pirates of the Caribbean, as some examples. The problem with the sequel started with how the first movie ended. Once you give Neo his powers, once he is the one, what then? What can possibly destroy him? That obviously ties into the issue that I mentioned earlier in the video about the fight scene with the Merovingian's henchmen. And yeah, they introduced the idea that Smith is starting to become a virus, but you're not going to have Neo just fight 1,000 Smiths in this entire movie. You have to add more things. You have to expand your universe and illustrate it. We need to keep upping the ante and throwing things at him to make us really feel like he can die at any moment, just like in the original Matrix. Neo had to figure things out on his own, and that was cool. That's something I mentioned before. That adds some huge potential for character development. But at the same time, Neo's journey kind of fell flat. He literally sort of just sat around thinking about what to do. Neo's life wasn't on the line, which is probably why they felt the need to have the plot of Reloaded center around Trinity dying. Because nothing says drama and character development like having the girlfriend die again and again and again. Okay, so Trinity's death has always been a point of controversy. It gets messy because if you take that out, then you take out the theme that love is an irrational thing. The antagonists like the Architect and Smith can't understand the purpose of love. The Architect even points out that Neo is different from the other ones because he's the only one who has a very specific love for one person. It's what puts a wrench in what Neo is supposed to do. He risks the world in order to save one person. So if you take that out, then I don't fucking know, because then if she doesn't die in revolutions, then he doesn't give up everything, but he needs to give up everything because that's the theme of Buddhism. And but then I don't fucking know. I don't know. I'm just a stupid YouTuber. And that's the end of this video. And I just want to say that I fucking hated editing this video because I was playing around with old parts and new parts, and this is just so butchered. So go away and check out the fourth and final video in this series.